It's not. I mean, they're out to the 4-0 start, and look, before the season, you could look at the schedules and see these NFC East teams have light schedules. They are going to have better records than maybe you thought, and the Eagles are set up because they're very good, and among the top contenders, they might have one of the easiest remaining schedules. So, yeah, I don't think it's an overreaction at all to think they're going to be the top seed in the NFC. They're going to have to figure out how to beat the Cowboys head-to-head.
Well, if they're able to do that, I think you could make an argument that there is no team in football that is better positioned, not only now, but in recent memory, than the Eagles are. Because the best thing you can be in the entire sport is to have a high draft pick in a year where there are a lot of quarterbacks that people want and to not need one.
Yeah.
Right.
The Eagles have the Saints pick. They could have a top 5 pick and not need a quarterback and, oh, by the way, win the Super Bowl. They could do all those things at the same time. But what we have to take into account, the first way that we are presupposing is that they are totally set at quarterback. Mike T, if you're the general manager in Philadelphia, have you already decided, I don't need a QB, Jalen Hurts is my guy for the long haul?
Not yet, but boy, I'm close, Greedy. He's moved a million miles, in my opinion. His downfield accuracy is so much better. His command of the offense, everything just looks better. Statistically, it's way better. You know, credit A.J. Brown, some of their other moves. With that said, they do have that Saints top 5 pick. Presumably, that's where it'll be. Be it Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis. There'll be some great quarterbacks there. So I'm going to take the luxury of time. He has low cap numbers this year and next year. Remember, Greeny, he's a second-round pick, not a first-round pick. No option to worry about. You have the luxury of time. Use it.
I think he's making $1.5 million this year and next.
Yeah, and he'll be extension eligible after this season. It'll be interesting to see what they do. But what a great point about the picks. The Eagles had 3 first-round picks in last year's draft and decided they didn't need to get a quarterback. Didn't like the quarterbacks in the draft. Nobody did, except Pittsburgh. And they saw enough from Jalen Hurts last year to give him another year. So they traded one of those 3 first-rounders in a deal that ended up, and they still end up having an extra one next year. And now they may not need it for a quarterback.
The crazy thing about having the Saints pick, we thought that maybe they're going to have to use both of those picks to move up. But if the Saints continue trending where they're at, they can get a quarterback. And it's going to be tough to pass on one of those quarterbacks because you got to ask yourself, if you pay Jalen Hurts, then you lose some of those luxury pieces. Kelsey's leaving. This is an opportunity to acquire more picks. But, I mean, Will Anderson is there. I mean, that's a difference maker coming out of college.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I got to bring you back to what you're just saying here. It sounds to me like you're answering the question. You're not totally sold on Jalen Hurts, because if Jalen Hurts is indeed what people sitting up here have been telling me he is, that they have developed him into now a spectacular quarterback for the long haul, you don't give those up no matter what they cost.
Well, I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback. And really the recipe for winning, and we saw in recent history, especially with, Carson Wentz when he was still on his rookie deal, I believe, and then winning the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, if you're able to have a cheap quarterback, you have a better chance of being able to go get better pieces around him and providing a special environment. We have the same questions about Tua. If Teddy Bridgewater comes out and looks great with all the pieces that Tua has, why would you give Tua $45 million a year? So that's one of those things. You want to keep that position down because it gives you flexibility to be able to build the very best roster.
I understand what you're saying, but a quarterback can't just be cheap. He also has to be good.
Right.
It's one thing to have a cheap quarterback.
But he can be young and cheap.
No, I understand that. Thing. But he's got to be good. Like, boy, this is a bird in the hand. I mean, an eagle in the hand kind of conversation we're having.
This is a big discussion in front offices right now, though. Like, how much can you afford to pay a quarterback and still win? The reason Russell Wilson's not still in Seattle is because the Seahawks looked and saw what he was going to want in contract. We can't build a team around him at that price. So the Eagles will always keep all of their options open at the quarterback position. That is what Howie Roseman has shown us since he's been there. Don't rule anything out.
I have 15 seconds, Mike T. You've used the term let players graduate. Is that something we should expect to see into the future? Teams letting quarterbacks that they don't think are going to be the next Josh Allen go, even if we think they're good, and get younger, cheaper ones?
I don't think so. I think Seattle's the exception to the rule, and maybe they get lucky with Geno Smith, but I'm still hard-pressed to think that Seattle's in a better position long-term with Geno Smith over Russell Wilson. Philly's just in a great spot because they've managed it well. They won't let Jalen Hurts walk out the door if he keeps playing this way.
All right, let me leave it there for the moment. I'm running out because there's Stephen A. and company getting ready to go. So I'd like to keep talking about this, but the show has to end. One estimating his own team.
You guys, everyone else thinks we're underdogs, but we don't. So, we're going to go in there with some confidence. We know how great we can be when we're detailed and we execute at a high level. So that's something that we need to take care of, during the week, or we won't have a shot.
All right, so this has come up a little bit here. And Bart, I'm going to start with you, and we all understand your background, Ravens, all that. The Steelers.
I hate the Steelers.
Not your favorite team. You hate the Steelers.
Just put it right out there.
But
Take the gray out.
If we can be as objective as we can.
I'll try.
The names on the backs of the jerseys suggest this team should be much better than this. The Pittsburgh Steelers have not been a 14-point underdog since 1969.
Yeah.
And they've got Chase Claypool, they have Deontay Johnson, they have Pat Freiermuth, they have Najee Harris, they have Minka Fitzpatrick. Maybe they shouldn't be the best team in the NFL, but they shouldn't be the worst. Why do they look so bad?
Because they don't have a good offensive line. I think they reached for Kenny Pickett. I think they shouldn't have reached for Kenny Pickett in a year where we thought that everybody knew that this was going to be a reset year. Losing a great Hall of Fame quarterback is always a reset year. For them to think that they can get a quarterback at pick 20 and Mitch Trubisky was going to be their answer. So why they took a quarterback and not being able to be in position to take one of these quarterbacks this year? So where do you go if you're sitting there at 4th and Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, or one of those guys are there? You're going to sit there and go for Will Anderson. So sometimes it's about bad picks. And this is the first time, and it's rare for the Steelers, that bad picking Kenny Pickett because they could have got an upgrade. Hell, Greeny, if I was 23 years old in college, I would have been the first overall pick. I mean, come on, the dude is a grown man right now, and this is probably much as close to his ceiling. He can get better, but he's close to what he's going to be because he was ready for the pros. And he's got a rude awakening coming because it's not all sunshine and roses, and we just need to, pay attention and detail. There's not enough detail in the world for them to beat Buffalo, in my opinion, this week. And I think the Steelers is in a tough position. It is tough to transition from a Hall of Fame quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger, and I don't think you find that at pick 20.
I get that, but here's the thing. The problem last year—
They don't have a good offensive line, and Najee Harris is not Saquon Barkley. I don't see special when I see him. You don't pick running backs that high and expect to have productivity.
Well, he was a first-round pick. I mean, Mike T— you watch them play, and we didn't. Ben Roethlisberger, he was part of the problem. All the respect in the world, first ballot Hall of Famer. You love Roethlisberger, but by the end, we thought that the quarterback position would be an upgrade into this season. It has been a disaster for the Steelers so far. Why?
Well, I agree with Bart. The offensive line has been a huge problem, but let's go to the other side of the ball. As Hembo reminded me, in week 1, T.J. Watt played. They had 7 sacks. Since then, in weeks 2, 3, and 4 total, guys, they have 3 sacks. So that's a really bad combination when you can't protect your quarterback and you can't rush the opposing team. And Grady, go back to your Zach Wilson drive of a lifetime last week. He played really well, but that was the Pittsburgh Steelers defense at home in the 4th quarter trying to protect the lead with crowd noise. It just isn't the same on either side of the ball. And for whatever reason, the sum of the parts are just not equaling the whole.
And so, Graz, it's interesting to see Tomlin making the move you can't unmake this early. Like, every sense I got, I felt like, was this is something he didn't want to do this quickly and now realized maybe he just had no choice.
Right. And it's interesting because, it feels like the right time to do it would have been 5 weeks ago to start the season or 4 weeks from now, because when you look at what they have coming up, right, we talk about they're playing Buffalo this week, then they play Tampa, then they play Miami, then they play Philadelphia. Good luck, kid, because you don't have an offensive line. The running game hasn't gotten going. To Tannenbaum's point, they're not sacking the quarterback, which they always do, by the way. Do you know that the Steelers have led the NFL in sacks as a team for 5 straight years? That is a part of who they are, and they're not doing it right now. So this is the peril of being this perpetual win-now team that doesn't acknowledge the existence of a rebuilding year, right? You draft a running back in the 1st round when it should be an offensive lineman. You draft a quarterback in the 1st round when it should be an offensive lineman. You don't want to have a losing season. You're the Pittsburgh Steelers. That doesn't happen here. This is, it'll be Tomlin's best trick yet if he can keep that streak going.
I get it, and yet I kind of admire it. I mean, they keep trying to win, and I admire it, and it is work.
Until you're back to the Tommy Maddox era where you're searching for and you're trying to find Cordell Stewart, you get in retreads because I don't think this kid in short order is going to be the long-term answer.
Well, they're going to